Hi, we're going to talk about lab safety. So let's start with an overview of what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about what to wear, what to do, what not to do, and how to handle accidents. I do really want to say, though, this is really important. Safety is really, really important. And I'm not trying to be corny or anything. It just really is important because you're going to be using glassware that can break and shatter and cut people or yourself. We're going to be using Bunsen burners that are flames that can burn and start fires. We're going to be using chemicals that can explode and get in your eyes. So please do take this seriously. It will matter a lot. If there's horseplay in the lab, you're going to be immediately ejected from class and go to the office because we cannot put anybody's safety at risk. So really do, please take this seriously. Okay, first of all, what to wear. If you've got long hair, you're going to want to tie it back. And on lab days, you're definitely going to want to wear closed-toed shoes, no flip-flops. We'll warn you when this is going to happen so that you know. A lot of you probably have backup shoes in your gym lockers, so you might have to run and grab those if it's an emergency, but try to actually wear them to class so that you don't have to do that and you're missing out. Goggles are often going to be necessary. I mean, we even saw just in our experiment with the baking soda and vinegar that you kind of wanted to keep your eyes protected. So when we get things that are even more volatile than just baking soda and vinegar, we're definitely going to want these. Even though when you wear them for a long time, eventually you get lines on your face and it's not very comfortable, you got to do it because it's going to keep you safe. Okay, you may also want gloves. You may not necessarily need them every single time, but you might need to use them. You won't always use gloves like this. Sometimes you'll use the gloves that are a little bit more nice and fitting to your hands, and it's actually easier to use them. Sometimes you might use pot holders or something if we're dealing with hot things. Fabrics that are the best to wear are going to be cotton fabrics. It's a good idea to avoid wool, nylon, and polyester. Just look at the tags in your clothing. But like those jerseys that are kind of that nice silky-ish fabric that's really smooth, those are usually nylon or rayon sometimes, and those will actually melt if they get too hot. And if you're wearing something that's melting, it's going to melt into your skin, and that's not going to feel good. So that's a bad choice for a lab day, especially if we're going to be dealing with the Bunsen burners. You also want to avoid loose clothing. I always have to take my lanyard off when I'm doing experiments so that I don't get it falling into something. So loose clothing and jewelry. If you've got bracelets or anything on, necklaces, whatever, big baggy sleeves, if you've got your hoodie on, that's not something good. You don't want to drag that through anything. Okay, next. Let's talk about what to do. Anybody ever watch Sesame Street or rather the Muppet Show? Beaker and Professor Honeydew? Okay. Before a lab, you do want to read all of the instructions. If there's a lab sheet that has instructions on it, read them. They were written for a reason. Make sure you heed all precautions and safety symbols. So there might be like a flammable symbol or a toxic symbol, something like that, and we'll go over symbols if we need to. So we'll make sure to go over all of the instructions. You do want to know our fire drill procedure, and I can show you in class where we're going to exit. We're just, there's a door outside in my room, or if you're in Miss Lippy's room, you're going to go out the back door of the science wing. You want to know where the exits are in your room. Miss Lippy's got two by her front desk, and Miss Bovis, me, has one out to the hallway and one out to outside. And we want to know where the emergency equipment is, like fire extinguisher. Okay, so make sure that you identify where the fire extinguisher is in your classroom, because they're in different places in my room and Miss Lippy's room. There also may be a fire blanket, so you want to find out where that fire blanket is as well. So then you're going to put on your gloves and your goggles and then you're ready to start your lab. So, what next? During the lab, never work alone. Please don't do labs alone. You want to make sure that you have somebody who can help you out, moving stuff around, helping you keep everything clean. Always work with somebody else. Only have out the supplies that you need for the lab. If you're using your laptop to do the lab, that's fine. Otherwise, let's get it put away. We don't want to get stuff on it. And you just don't want to have extra stuff around that things can get spilled on, or just other things that could cause spills or cause things to fall. Just keep everything nice and neat and clear. So stay neat and clean is our next thing. Please use caution whenever you're using heat, flames, or electricity, because that can start a fire. Keep flammable materials as far away from your flame, your Bunsen burner, as you can. When you are carrying glass, when you're carrying things like this beaker, you're going to hold it with two hands like this, and you are going to walk with your elbows tucked into your body, not like this so that you're going to bump into people or objects, and you're going to walk defensively, so you're protecting your beaker. Okay, so two hands, elbows tucked, walk defensively. You don't have to necessarily cover it, but sometimes it could help. Only if you're wearing gloves do you want to do that. Report all accidents and spills immediately. Report them to me, or if you're Miss Lippy's student, report them to her. Okay, so that is our during lab protocol. Next, after lab, clean up. It's the responsible thing to do. So you want to make sure that you know what proper disposal you need to do for the chemicals. Some chemicals might not be able to just go down the drain. You might have to put them into a specific bin so that they can get disposed of properly. Things that are toxic can't necessarily go down the drain because they can get into the water supply and cause poisonings. Let's not do that. Clean off all of your equipment, nice and clean, so that it can be reused by whoever comes next. Otherwise, I'm going to be doing dishes for days, so please be nice to me and just clean up your stuff. Clean the workspace as well. So that means if you're working on a sink, if you're working at your desks, if you're working on a counter, clean that space up. I don't want chemicals just lying all over the place, or just any junk all over the place in general. Put the equipment kind of nice and neatly at your station when you're done with it. And then, after you take off your gloves, wash your hands. All right, now let's talk about things not to do. Don't goof off. Don't perform unauthorized experiments. That means just, oh, I wonder what's going to happen if I mix these two together, if I put this on fire, if I do da-da-da-da-da-da. Just do the things that we're asking you to do. If we're asking you to come up with your own lab, your own procedure, we're going to have to approve it beforehand, okay? You're not just going to come up with, oh, we're going to do this experiment, and then you start doing it. You got to get it approved first, okay? Don't chew gum. Don't eat food. Don't drink any beverages during a lab, because you don't want anything getting into your mouth. When there's actual like lab chemical stuff going on in this room, don't be drinking anything. If you really need a drink, that's when you go out to the water fountain, get some water, come back in, okay? So when we're doing the lab, don't be messing with beverages. Just don't. It can cause, it can be dangerous. You might accidentally grab the wrong thing and be like, delicious. Oh my God, I'm dying. So don't do that, okay? Don't taste any of the chemicals. Don't touch any of the chemicals unless you're specifically told to do so. Okay, how to handle accidents. First of all, remain calm. You don't need to panic about it. Accidents happen. It's not a huge deal. You're not going to get in trouble. You're not going to have to pay some big fine or something. Just report it to me. No matter how minor it is. If you're spilling something and you're like, oh dear, just come let me know. We'll get it cleaned up together and make sure that it's not a problem. Help me clean up your mess. So that's the help clean up part. Sweep up any broken glass with a pan. You want to have gloves on, thick gloves, to keep your hands safe when you're trying to sweep up that glass, so that when you're using the little broom thing that you don't get your hands accidentally touching. Don't ever touch broken glass. Bad idea. Very dangerous. You're like, oh, I'm grabbing a fine area. No, I'm not. Never mind. Ow, it hurts. Don't do that, please. Always walk. Don't run. Never run. We have some other supplies. There's an eye wash. Stick your face in it. Wash out your eyes. We've got a fire blanket you can wrap somebody up in if they're burning and they roll around on the floor. Stop, drop, and roll. And then we also have a fire extinguisher. So the fire extinguisher, there's an acronym with fire extinguisher. It's PASS. So for the fire extinguisher, the P stands for pull. So this little guy here, you pull it out. The A stands for aim. You always aim at the bottom of your flame, always at the source. Don't just aim at the top of the flame or you're just going to blow it. You want to aim at the bottom, the source of the flame, and then you squeeze. You actually squeeze the lever down, and then you sweep back and forth. Most likely, if we're actually going to have a fire that needs to have that fire extinguisher, I'll probably be the one to put it out to make sure that everybody else stays safe. Alrighty. So that covers it. If you need to review any of that to finish getting it copied down, go ahead, go back in there and get that done. Make sure you get your lab safety contracts turned in.